الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعلى محمد. Respected scholars and my dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. I'd like to begin, I guess, first by asking with a show of hands, how many of you are intending to go for Hajj for the very first time? Okay, mashallah, pretty much everyone. So I would like to begin by congratulating you and really and sincerely saying this is absolutely a wonderful step that you have taken. This is, as you know, an obligation in Islam. وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا. And we have many ahadith that strongly emphasize that before we leave this plane of existence that we should have done this Hajj. We have, for example, this hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in which he says that if a person dies not having performed the Hajj, intentionally being neglectful, meaning having the means, having the ability, having the circumstances, the time, but still not caring to do their Hajj, then I don't care whether he dies a Muslim or not, because he will not be raised like one on the Day of Judgment. Okay, it is so important. And I hear time and again of a lot of brothers and sisters who give a lot of emphasis on ziyarah, which undoubtedly is very important. And they repeatedly go out for ziyarah, but they neglect doing their Hajj, which is really unfortunate because in my mind it equates to someone who gives a lot of importance to praying Salatul Layl but does not get up for Fajr then. There is more thawab for Salatul Layl, undoubtedly. It's mustahab, it's voluntary, it's an act of love, but it's meaningless if you don't do what is wajib first. So congratulations to all of you, and inshallah may you have a safe trip going and coming, and inshallah a spiritually uplifting one, which is why I've been asked to speak as well this morning, inshallah, to share some spiritual insights. I remember doing this previously, and there is this wonderful book in Arabic and Farsi. I don't know if it is in English. There is a famous contemporary scholar in Iran by the name of Muhammad Ray Shahri, Sheikh Muhammad Ray Shahri. I don't know if he's an Ayatollah, but he's a muhaddith, he's an expert in hadith, and he has a number of books where he compiles hadith on specific topics. So he has, for example, Ahlul Bayt fi Kitab wa Sunnah, or he has, for example, Ilm wal Hikmah fi Kitab wa Sunnah, Salat fi Kitab wa Sunnah, and so on. And so he has Al-Hajj wal-Umrah fi Kitab wa Sunnah. He has a whole collection on Hajj and Umrah in Quran and in Hadith, essentially. And he has collected every possible Hadith on every aspect of Hajj and Umrah. And if I were to go through all these Hadith on the spiritual benefits and rewards for every aspect of Hajj, we'd be here for days, actually. We'd need like maybe a week or two just to go through all that. So I have found from previous experience that if I give you a lot of individual tips for specific aspects of Hajj, it doesn't quite serve the intended purpose, because what happens is, number one, you might take notes furiously, but when you're there, you unfortunately will not find the time to refer to these notes, and they will not be with you all the time in your mind, or you'll be stressed about it. That is one thing. The other thing is, as you will hear later on when you listen to Shk Khalil here as well, is that a lot of the things that are found in hadith as recommendations, even from the ahkam point of view or mustahabbat, are sometimes not easy to do. I don't want to say not practical, but not easy to do, simply because of the number of people who get together there in one place, the congestion, and the ability to do this. So let me give you a few examples by which you will understand what I'm talking about here. And a lot of this will not really sink in until you are actually there. The fuqaha, for example, say that we do not understand the laws of Hajj hatta nahij. La nafhamul Hajj hatta nahij. Right now, a lot of things are fuzzy in your mind. If you've never been for Hajj, you have this idea: there is Arafat, there is Muzdalifah, there is Mina, there is slaughtering an animal, there is shaving my head off, there is tawaf, there is sa'i, there is tawaful nisa, but you don't quite understand how it happens in sequence. It's hard to remember and all that. When you do Hajj only once, it stays with you for life. You will remember that forever as to what comes first and what happens next and the significance. So, as an example, when you get to Mina, there is the stoning of the devil, or the pillars that represent the devil. And I unfortunately haven't been for Hajj in a while, and back when I went, this pillar was literally a pillar. It was just a column. And it was extremely dangerous. They used to have paramedics and ambulances and all just sitting there waiting, because victims were there for sure. And what would happen is people would surround this pillar from all sides, and they'd be throwing their stones and chanting Allahu Akbar, and some would bring more than pebbles. They'd bring like rocks. Those who don't find them would take their slippers off, and they'd be throwing slippers at it. They really have this idea, this is the devil and I need to somehow kill it, right? And so typically what would happen is, while you go and hit the Jamarat, there's people from the opposite side also throwing this way. And if they miss the column, then guess who's the potential shaitan there, right? And you'd see people being carried off constantly, bleeding from the head, it was very, very difficult. And I've seen adult men crying next to me and saying, I can't do this. How will I get there? Can you do it for me? And we would take our women folk, and we'd actually be standing protecting them like this. And we'd tell them, go in extremely fast and get out. So they'd go in with their pebbles like, they're on a mission on war. And this was like absolutely, they'd go in and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and run. This is how it was. Now I hear they've changed it and made it a wall. So I don't know how close and how easy it is to go up to the wall. Last year there were some countries that were not there for Hajj, and I understand the crowd was significantly less. It might not be the case this year. But the reason I mention this is, when you look at hadith, what you're told is the adab of Jamarat is, you take the pebble, you place it on your thumb, and you flick it like this, right? I mean, good luck trying to do that. It's not going to happen. So I could tell you a lot of hadith and recommendations of how you do this, but when you get there on the ground, it's not going to happen like that. There are also many du'as and adhkar, the plural of dhikr, that you recite when you do the tawaf. Now in your mind, if you have never been there, you are thinking, it's going to be me and Allah and the angels, and I'm going to go around slowly with itminan and waqar and sakina, and I'll be doing my dhikr, me and Allah, my shoulder always to the Kaaba, peacefully, gracefully. I have my counter in my hand. Get there, it's a very different story. There are people shorter than you with umbrellas poking you in the eyes. There are people taller than you elbowing you. There are people trying to protect their women. Your toes are stepped on so much, after a while there's no feeling in your toes, right? I don't want to scare you. Don't back out of Hajj. The good part is yet to come. But it's a very different experience. You're trying to stay alive a lot of times. And what appears to be like, when you see the Kaaba, you think, I'll do these 7 rounds in half an hour. How long does it take?
35 to 50 minutes.
Only? Really? Okay. I thought with Hajj it would be a lot more. Back when I went, I seem to think it felt like hours. And, I had women folk with me, and one of the ladies with me fell very ill towards the end, and so I had to do tawaf for her on her niyabat, including tawaf on nisa and so on. So I was doing several of these, and it felt like hours and hours. But anyway, so I'll give you one more example so you understand that what is in hadith is not necessarily what you want to take very, I must do this. Yes, the wajibat you have to do, but there's a lot of mustahab things that you will have to see if you can, and if you can, it's wonderful. We're told, for example, when you get to Mina, after you sacrifice the animals, then you shave your head off, and the ladies just cut some of their hair, And in these spiritual aspects and benefits of and blessings, there's a lot of things that are given as the thawab of so many things. For example, we have, if you pray 2 rakats in Makkah near the Kaaba, it's the equivalent of praying 1,000 rakats. Or for example, one who completes the sa'i between Safa and Marwa is purified of sin like the day he or she was born. And in that regard, there is, for example, one hadith from Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam that says, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, that when you shave your hair off, from every one of that hair that falls off your head, Allah will create a light for you, a nur, on the Day of Judgment. But there is another hadith that says that whoever shaves his head and then buries that hair in Mina, Allah will resurrect every single one of those hairs on the Day of Judgment, and they will come forth with a tongue by which they will be reciting the talbiyah for the honor. Talbiyah is, as you will hear later on, is the shi'ar or the slogan for the hujjaj. Labbaik, Allahumma labbaik, la sharika laka, labbaik. So it's all very nice and it's beautiful, and I'm sure we all want to do that. But I don't know if you will find a place to bury your hair in Mina, right? So, and that is why I chose, rather than speaking of individual points, to say here is the spiritual benefit and significance of Maqam Ibrahim, here is of Tawaf, here is of Sa'i, here is of Jamarat, here is of Arafat. I want to address the issue of spirituality from a more holistic perspective and say, what is the idea behind Hajj from a spiritual aspect? When we talk of, we have ulama who have written books on the spiritual mysteries of every aspect of Salat. And these books are usually start with the word Asrar. Asrar is the plural of Sir, which is a secret. So Asrarul Salat, Asrarul Sawm, and then you have Asrarul Hajj. And there is a lot of books on the Asrar of Hajj. And if you want more information on this as well, there is a title in English as well. It is written by, I can't remember if it is Ayatollah Mishkini but it's been translated by Sheikh Salim Bimji, many of you who know him. And it's a thin booklet published by the IHS in Kitchener, and it's called The Secrets of Hajj. And it talks about, it's essentially a translation of the Ayatollah's Asrarul Hajj. So you will get some of these from there. What I'm going to do is break down my presentation to 5 major points regarding spiritual dimensions, and then inshallah I'll try and leave some time at the end if you have any questions. I also want to clarify that when I speak of spirituality here, I'm speaking more in mystical and irfani terms, not necessarily the spiritual reward. So there is a lot of that as well in our books of hadith to say, as I mentioned earlier a few, that if you recite 1 rakat here or 2 rakats, it's the equivalent of 1,000 rakats. If you do sa'i, it's like the day you were born. If you do this, you get that thawab, and so on. I might mention a few, but I'm talking here more spirituality in terms of reform of the spirit and finding a change in ourselves when we come back from Hajj, because I think that is what many of us would be concerned with. And many of you have already been for ziyarah, and you know how quickly it passes. And here you are one day thinking, I'm going for ziyarah and I'm going to make it special and I want to prepare for it, and you're reading and getting ready for it. And before you know it, you're back, you're sitting in the office again, and it's just another day, and you're thinking to yourself, yesterday I was in Karbala, today I'm back in the office dealing, fighting fires at work, and that feeling it's disheartening that I haven't felt any change in myself. So initially when you get there, I think the group traditionally goes to Medina first, right? So you'll be in Medina, there is the ziyarah aspect. You'll get to Mecca, you'll do your umrah, then you'll take off your ihram, and then you have a few days of rest, and then on the 9th of Dhul Hajj or the night before that, you'll head out to Arafat, and that's when the Hajj starts. Now, those days will pass very quickly, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. And I would say, if you're going to get yourself spiritually ready when you're there, it's too late. You need to do that now, here, today, before you go home, so that you are already in an altered state of mind by the time you board the plane here. When is the group departing from here? 17th of August. Okay, so you have, I'd like to think you have plenty of time. You have a month. But there are little things that we can start doing and observing during this 1 month. Maybe fasting some mustahab fasts when we can. If we're not praying Salatul Layl, adopt that. Start, being a little conscious of what we're watching, what we're listening to. It's what we're about to embark on is more than a journey of a lifetime. It is almost a resurrection. It is like being told, on the 17th of August, you die, and your day of judgment begins. So there's absolutely no time to waste in terms of softening the heart and preparing spiritually. The first point I want to talk about is that when you go for Hajj, you are expecting a very calm, tranquil, laid-back experience, but it's going to be, from a physical perspective, it's going to be a lot of hardship and chaotic. Despite all the modernity and the improvements that have been made in how you journey and the physical comforts, but you will constantly find your patience is being tried. And I think this is for a reason. You see, in a lot of other faiths, the spiritual seekers try to find this by running away from society. They do this by establishing a monastery and living in a cave, or cutting themselves away from people and meditating. Islam has a very different perspective. Islam believes the only way you become spiritual is by throwing yourself in society, where you encounter people who are at different levels of maturity, and they challenge you and bring out the parts within you that have not matured. So anger, jealousy, hatred, egoic behavior, it all comes out through our lives, in our relationships, in our, I think this is the secret to why Allah constantly, for example, a simple thing like marriage, right? Allah made it prohibited for us to marry our own siblings and asks us to marry those we're not related to. That in itself creates a certain friction. But there is wisdom in that, because through that, you learn patience, you learn tolerance, you learn compassion, you learn to see the other's perspective, right? And so on. What Hajj does is it compresses an entire lifetime into 3 days or 5 days. And in those days, you will see the worst and the best in everyone. They say if you really want to know someone, there are various ways you can do that. And one of it is by traveling with someone. Since we can't marry everyone, we can know them by traveling with them. And so at every point in your journey, as you experience hardship, try and be reflective and ask yourself, why? And when you surprise yourself with a behavior that you didn't think you had, you never thought you were such an angry man, or you never thought you were such a jealous woman, but it comes out, then it's a point and a time for reflection. It is not a time to feel depressed, it's a time to be thankful that you have discovered something in you that you need to work on, right? We used to notice, I remember when we went for Hajj, somebody said to me that, it's not insignificant that we stone the devil at Mina, because you will see the worst of people in Mina. And the devil is most active in Mina. And that's where you stone the devil. And I don't know if it was just subliminal messaging, but lo and behold, I've been for Hajj twice, and on both occasions I found that exactly to be true. Most of the fights in the group broke out at Mina. You could write it off as people were now exhausted because that's the end of the journey. But, people would take a lot of food from here and then hoard it and hide it. And then in Mina, they know we're leaving in 2 days. I don't need the food. So now there's lots of food out there. I don't know if it still happens. I'm talking like, 10 years ago maybe. But, it's reminding me, I haven't been for a while. But, you find in Mina now, everybody, Cheura and Gantia and all this coming out, because now nobody wants it, right? They were hoarding it thinking we'll need it, but then there was enough food and they didn't need this. So a lot of fights on petty things. People were fighting, and you'd be wondering, like, you've done all this Hajj, you're on the last day, why are you fighting over something so minor like, I'm supposed to be sleeping on this mattress and this person took my spot. And these are adults fighting over things like this. If they had realized what was Hajj, they would say, you sleep on my mattress, I'll sleep on the floor. right? So your patience will be tried. As I mentioned, you will encounter pollution, you will encounter traffic, congestion. There is a lot of hustling during tawaf. I've mentioned the infamous umbrellas. I don't know if it still happens, but a lot of elbowing, a lot of stepping on your toes, a lot of heat. The washrooms might not be as you expect them to, and you will see a lot of selfish behavior from others. So you are just trying to get through your tawaf. You're trying not to hurt anybody, but you will constantly have to swallow your anger and withhold. Somebody elbows you. What is your instinctive behavior? Elbow back. Somebody pushes you. What is your instinctive behavior? Push back. But in the things that you're prohibited in Hajj, you cannot swat a mosquito. You cannot scratch yourself. You cannot apply perfume. You cannot look in the mirror. So try for a change. Somebody pushes you. Given the benefit of doubt, he wasn't doing that to personally offend you because he doesn't like you. And don't push back. And see if you can find peace and tranquility in that chaos. That is a great aspect of spirituality that I've had people go for Hajj and come back and then say to me, I'm quite disappointed. This is not exactly what I thought Hajj would be. And that's because they were looking for peace and tranquility at a physical level. Your mission, if you like, is to try and see the beauty of Hajj and the spiritual aspect amidst the chaos. So as an example of how you'd find this is when you've done your tawaf and your sa'i and you're free from the arkan or the things you need to do in Masjid al-Haram, if you're able, go up to the roof right on top and from up observe tawaf. You will now see a very different picture. You will see this beautiful, almost a circling of angels. You'll see millions of people in white just swimming around. From there, it won't seem like they're elbowing and pushing and shoving and stepping on toes. It will seem like they're swimming. They're moving around in a very beautiful circle. And to be able to have that perspective while you're on the ground, to be able to see the forest from the trees, that's the challenge. All right? So this is one thing you can take with you on your journey, that can I find peace amidst the chaos? And can I be at one with my thoughts regarding my Lord, like the angels are, despite all the pushing and shoving? And can I resist the constant temptation to react with anger? You're also denied physical pleasure. So besides anger, the other devil that will surge within you is having to fight temptation and lust. So there is a lot of opportunities for sin as well, to look at haram constantly, because that is one place where men and women are mixed together, right? So there are all sorts of trials awaiting you. And as I said, you're not going to be ready for them when you get there. You need to start working on them now. If you can resist the temptation to look at sin here, now, a month before, then you have some preparation there. And the more we prepare before, the more spirituality we will find there. That tranquility we want, those tears we want to shed while doing tawaf, they will come out there if we have prepared here. As I like to say, the more you sweat in practice, the less you bleed in combat. Okay? So, that was the first thing. The other aspect of spirituality, the second one that I want to talk about, is that you should know that for every physical act, there is a spiritual dimension. Every zahir has a batin. And some of this you will be able to determine on your own without having that help from hadith. But I'm delighted to know you have Sayyid Asad with you. You have Shk Khalil with you there as well. There are other scholars coming in from other parts of the world. So you will have lots of opportunities to meet with them and have discussions with them, and ask them what they think is the spiritual aspect, or what is their reflection at that point in time about what is happening. I'll give you a personal example. When I first went for Hajj, I was not even living in Canada, and I've lived in Canada for like 20 years now. So this is more than 20 years ago, right? And I was with the same group though, but we came from Dubai. I was living in Dubai at the time. And I didn't know Brother Inayat and others in the group. I just knew Canadians are very spoiled and they're, stiff-lipped, toffee-nosed, upper whatever. So, and the reason was because we used to laugh at how, Canadians would be asking questions like, can I floss my teeth? And they'd bring small, battery-operated fans because it's hot and they want to stay cool. And we came from a place like Dubai that was, sweltering hot. So to us that was, But then when we first got there, we were in Medina, and we had a hotel at the time that was actually behind Jannatul Baqi. So for those of you who've been there for Umrah, there is Masjid Nabawi, and then opposite facing it is Jannatul Baqi, and it runs a long length, and then behind that, we had a hotel that was facing exactly opposite Jannatul Baqi. And this was my first time as an adult, even Umrah. I had not been for Umrah even before that. So I was doing Hajj and Umrah all for the first time. And we went to Medina, and we were in Medina, and my first day in the morning, got up, got dressed, ready to go to, the Haram of the Prophet for ziyarah. And I got to the door, the entrance of the hotel room, and I met this brother who was from Canada, but of an Iraqi origin. And he was standing at the door, and he was shedding tears. And I stopped, and I was like, "Are you okay, brother?" He was like, "Yeah." So I asked him, I said, what's wrong? And we started talking and got introduced to each other, and he began telling me what he was thinking at the time. And he said to me, he didn't know me either, so he just held me and he said, "Do you see that green dome ahead of you?" I said, "Yeah, Qubbatul Khadra, this is where the greatest of God's creation is buried." And he wept and wept. And he said, "Do you see those graves that are under the open sky in Jannatul Baqi?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "I swear by Allah, if we knew who these individuals are, we would not dare to walk to them. We would go crawling to them." Now, this was his thoughts at the time, and this is why he was shedding tears. But that statement, that one sentence, moved something within me. So that now, when I walked from my hotel room to the Prophet, I walked with a very different feeling and mindset. I was almost running in anticipation. And I suddenly came to this realization of where I was, and I began thinking, oh my God, I'm not just doing Hajj and Umrah, I am in Medina. This is the place that was named Medina Munawwara. It was Yathrib. This is the place where Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein were born. This is the place where the Prophet preached to the Muslims. This is the place where so many wonderful experiences happened. Mubahala would have happened from here. Uhud is not too far from here, right? This is where the Prophet led prayers to others. This is Masjid Ghamama. This is like so many things come to realization then. Even though, unfortunately, the authorities there have demolished a lot of the sacred sites, but there is so much to still come to realize and ask and think about. And you will be taken on some ziyarat outside, where you will be shown places and told this is where, for example, the Prophet asked Imam Ali to pray and the sun was returned for him. This is the place where this happened. This is the place where that happened. There's a lot of historic significance. Same with Mecca. Right? Mecca has a lot of significances. This is Shir Abu Talib. This is where the Prophet used to stand on this mountain and call out to people, inviting them to Islam, and so on and so forth. The birthplace of the Prophet and so on. So what I'm trying to say to you is, don't make it just a physical thing where in my book I have these notes that I have to read this dua and I have to make sure your wajibs are all, you've got your T's crossed and your I's dotted for all your wajibat. Don't slack on that, absolutely. I'm not asking you to compromise on that, absolutely, because if you haven't done your Hajj properly, you're going to have to do it again. So get that for sure, tight and secure. But for everything else you're doing, don't do it at a physical level. Make sure you have that right attitude before you do something. So for example, when we go for ziyarah, we are told before you enter the haram of the Imam, you first ask for permission to enter, isn't it? that brings you a consciousness that you're not just visiting a grave, but you're visiting an imam. You're not just visiting somebody who's buried there, but someone that you believe is alive and can listen and hear to what you say. And we have this hadith from Shia and Sunni perspective that the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever comes to visit me in Medina and says salam to me, I personally reply their salam. And if you say salam to the Prophet from away, from here, then there are angels, one facing the east and one facing the west, who reply the salam on behalf of the Prophet. So you have to have that level of conviction that when you are in Medina and you say, Assalamu alayka ya Rasulallah, then he is saying to you, if you are worthy of it, wa alaykumus salam. And that is what you want to strive for, that level of conviction of what is happening behind the apparent. Okay, there is so much happening beneath. And you need to keep that with you. So you prepare from here, but when you get there, keep close to the scholars, ask them what they're reflecting at the time. Make sure you have some time for yourself. Don't just go with the group, because you need some time to bring yourself. As I was saying earlier, when we go for ziyarah, we ask for permission to enter. And we have in hadith where people asked the imams and said, if I go to the ziyarah of an imam and I ask for permission to enter and then I enter in, how do I know I was given permission to enter? And the answer that we have in hadith is that when you ask for permission to enter, if one tear falls from your eye, that is your proof that you have been given permission to enter. And I know of an individual who went to Mashhad and asked for permission, and because a tear did not shed from his eye, he sat outside for hours and hours, maybe half a day, refusing to go in, continuously thinking, asking, Ya Imam al-Rida, for what reason will you not permit me in? Until he shed a tear, that's when he went in. Okay, so it's your level of conviction, your level of, how you feel about it. But it's not difficult to cry in Medina when you see the devastation in Baqi and when you think of how madhloom the Imams have always been. And you will see some groups from Iran as well, and sometimes you will see them in the midst of ziyarah, they break into some masa'ib. And if you can understand even a little bit of Farsi, you're absolutely going to love it, right? I've had this personal experience as well. They wouldn't allow the ladies to go up to Jannatul Baqi, and the men were only allowed after Fajr and so on. And so I'd hang out near the Iranians and just listen to what they're saying. And I'd hear this preacher in the morning, calling out to the Prophet and then turning to Baqi and saying to the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, we've come for your ziyarah and we've come for the ziyarah of the Imams, and now we want to do ziyarah of Fatima, but where is Fatima? We don't know where she's buried. Is she here with you, or is she with the Imams? And he would go on and on about that and crying and saying, why is it that the Muslims have dealt with your daughter like this? And it breaks you down. And then after that, when you recite ziyarah, it has a whole new meaning. You feel this sense of renewal spiritually when you go back to your hotel room. Okay? So keep that, constant mind that for every physical action there is a spiritual dimension. Now, let me give you a few examples very quickly. For example, tawaf. There was a man who was an atheist who asked Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, what is this tawaf you Muslims are doing? Like camels going around a tree, you're just going around some bricks and cement round and round and round. Like, what are you doing? And the Imam answered him in a manner that absolutely silenced him. Okay, and you will find this in Al-Kafi. But in essence, Muslims believe that above the Kaaba, in the heavens, there is a structure that resembles the Kaaba, the Baytul Ma'mur, around which the angels circumambulate or do tawaf. And there is the Arsh of Allah as well, around which the angels are constantly doing tawaf. So from a spiritual perspective, if you think about it, there is some deep meaning to tawaf. First of all, notice when you do tawaf, you're going to go around the Kaaba anti-clockwise. You don't go clockwise. Notice as well that the universe rotates anti-clockwise. The planets go around the sun anti-clockwise. The solar system goes around the galaxy anti-clockwise. So there is a certain pattern on which Allah has built the universe. The angels simulate that, and then you go for Hajj, and now you simulate the angels. And on the Day of Judgment, we are told in Surah Az-Zumar, which is chapter 39, verse 75, وَتَرَى الْمَلَائِكَةَ حَافِّينَ مِنْ حَوْلِ الْعَرْشِ. On that day you will see the angels going around the throne of Allah. يُسَبِّحُونَ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّهِمْ. They will be glorifying, doing tasbih and hamd of their Lord. وَقُضِيَ بَيْنَهُمْ بِالْحَقِّ وَقِيلَ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. So imagine that scene now on the Day of Judgment, where angels in millions and trillions are swimming around the arsh, glorifying, doing tasbih of Allah, saying Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. And everyone standing comes to realization that He was the only power and authority. Now you doing tawaf need, amidst that pushing and chaos, to be able to bring that level of spiritual dimension to mind, to be able to see that what's happening behind the scenes. Consider, for example, a Safa and Marwa. Safa and Marwa, we know we are imitating the mother of Ismail, Hajar, when she went looking for water for her son. And now we are running between two mounts, Safa and Marwa. And there is the thawab of it, as I said, you're purified of all sin and so on. But for a moment, think of it spiritually. What's happening here? What if while I'm walking and there is a portion between two green lights where I run, where I jog, which is called the harwala for men, what if for a moment I bring myself to think I am running to Allah? That is the true meaning of tawbah, isn't it? Because istighfar is you ask Allah for forgiveness. Tawbah is you turn back to Allah. You say to Allah, all my life I have been occupied with the world, with my youth, with my beauty, with my passion, with my desires, with my wants, with materialism. I am now turning back to you and running towards you. And that is why Allah says, if you turn to me, I turn to you. Allah is also Tawwabur Rahim. So Allah is also does tawbah, just like we do tawbah. When we turn to Him, He is already waiting to turn to us. We have in Hadith al-Qudsi that says, if you take one step towards me, I take 70 towards you. If you are willing to come walking to me, I will come running to you. Right? So, again, think about the case of when you really get excited that you're getting closer to Allah. What is your attitude as you run to Allah? You see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to the Prophet Musa alayhi salam, after He saved them from the Banu Israel and they crossed the sea, He said, leave your people at the foot of the mountain and come visit me, O Musa. Come talk to me. This is what you're doing. You're going for Hajj to talk to Allah. So Musa is told, come talk to me. This is your Mount Sinai. This is where you're going to get your commandments. This is where you're going to make pledges, covenants, commitments to Allah, that when I come back from Hajj, I will be a different person. So Musa now is going up the mount to see Allah, but Allah says to him, come alone for 30 days, and then it gets extended to 10 more days. As Musa alayhi salam goes up the mount to meet Allah, as he comes closer, and now he has turned away from people, from family, from job, from world, his mind is now completely to Allah. So as he goes closer, he gets more excited. He now starts running. He's literally jumping on those rocks, trying to move as fast as he can to get to the point, the miqat, the meeting with Allah, which is what you're going for in Hajj. When he gets there, Musa alayhi salam is now panting, he's breathless because of how excited he is and how he ran. Now in Surah Taha, chapter 20, verse 83, Allah is now teasing Musa. He asks him, وَمَا أَعْجَلَكَ أَنْ قَوْمِكَ يَا مُوسَى. And what has made you run from your people and come with such hurry to me, O Musa? Why the rush? Musa says, قَالَ هُمْ أُولَاءِ عَلَىٰ أَثَرِ. They are just at my heels. They're just at the foot of the mountain. وَعَجِلْتُ إِلَيْكَ رَبِّي لِتَرْضَى. I have come running to you, my Lord, so that you may be radi with me. This is why I have come running to you. I am so excited. I want you to say to me that, O Musa, not only are you pleased with me as your Lord, but I am pleased with you. رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ. He is pleased with them and they are pleased with him. This is what you want in Hajj. You want Allah to be radi with you. You want to come back with the sense that I have been forgiven, I have been reborn, I have a new life, and Allah is pleased with me. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to move faster here. Arafat, you all have read about this and you know. The idea behind Arafat is you're all dressed in white. It simulates kafan or shrouds. You stand under the open desert. It simulates the day of judgment. There are millions and millions and millions. You are just a drop in an ocean. You are insignificant. You're nobody. It doesn't matter here. Yes, here you might be a great scholar, you might be an ayatollah, you might be a PhD, you might be a scientist, you might be a doctor, you might be a prime minister, you might be a president, you might be a billionaire. There you are one amongst millions and you are nobody. And that is what's going to happen on the Day of Judgment. So Arafat, the spiritual dimension of it is the Day of Judgment. And you need to bring that mahshar and that, being in kafan and so on. Mina, we hit the shaitan, but as you all know, the spiritual aspect of it is that you hit the inner shaitan. So it's not about being angry and just, as you will see a lot of people doing that, using all their strength to really hit the shaitan, as if we really hit him hard, he's going to run away from us. But it's really about hitting that shaitan within and finding the time to reflect, to say, what are those shayateen within me that I am, hitting and turning away from. Shaving of the head, which is very difficult for a lot of young men because they're concerned when we come back to work, or I'm going to lose my beautiful hair and so on. It's not wajib, you can get away with trimming it, but think about it, because it is also symbolically a shaving of the ego. It's a saying to Allah that there is nothing I will not do for you. Hajj is all about following Ibrahim, and Ibrahim was all about submission to God. That from this time onwards, I have no will except your will. And just as I shave my head this day, I shave my egoic self. And I no longer care what people think. What I care is what you think. I want the pleasure of people, but not more than I want your pleasure. Okay? The slaughtering of the animal in Mina as well is an act of slaughtering the egoic self. I think the most powerful act in Hajj for me was the talbiyah. The talbiyah, as I said, is a slogan. When you leave Medina, you'll stop at a mosque called Masjid Shajara, where you will put on your ihram. I have 2 minutes left, actually, and I'm still on my second point, but I'll wrap it up anyway.
It's okay.
5 minutes more? Okay, thank you. The most powerful for me was talbiyah. Talbiyah, make sure you know the meaning of what you're reciting. So when you first put on your ihram just outside Medina and you're coming to Mecca for your initial umrah, you'll be in ihram because you can't enter Mecca without ihram, right? That's why you put on your ihram outside Medina, you come into Mecca, you do your umrah, then you take off your ihram. Then you wait for the 9th of Dhul Hijjah to start your Hajj. So initially when you're coming to Mecca, you're going to be told, when you put on your ihram, you recite Labbaik, Allahumma Labbaik. I am at your service, O Allah. I am at your service. Here I am, O Lord. Labbaik, Allahumma Labbaik. La sharika laka labbaik. You have no partner. I am here at your service, my Lord. Innal hamda wal ni'mata wal mulk. Innal hamda wal ni'mata laka wal mulk. La sharika laka labbaik. Everything is yours. The glory, the praise, the kingdom, it is yours and yours alone. I am but a humble servant and I am here at your service. So you're constantly, in a sense, knocking on Allah's door. Here I am, my Lord, accept me. Here I am, my Lord, accept me. Labbaik, Allahumma labbaik. And then, the day before you leave for Arafat, in Mecca, when you put on your ihram, you will again recite the talbiyah as you go to Arafat. And you will probably, if they're still doing it the same way, you will leave the night before so that you are already in Arafat from sunrise or from dawn. So when you're going on the bus at night to Arafat, find some time alone, even if it's just sitting by the window of the bus, looking out so you are on your own, and just recite this talbiyah with such sincerity and such strength that you break down in tears. The beauty about talbiyah is that the moment you get to Mecca, you stop the first time. And it's almost a sense like you're journeying to Allah, and when you arrive home, then you no longer say, here I am, because now you're there. Okay? It is in a sense saying that we have set out to purify ourselves. We are children of Jannah. Our forefather Adam was removed from Jannah by Shaitan. We have come to this world. We are now journeying back to Jannah and constantly saying to Allah, accept us. Here we are, our Lord, here we are. We are told in one hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. He says, "Ma min mulabbin yulabbi illa labba ma an yaminihi wa shimalihi min hajarin aw shajarin aw madarin hatta tanqati'u al-arda min hahuna wa hahuna." If a person does talbiyah with absolute sincerity, labbaik, Allahumma labbaik, labbaik, Allahumma labbaik, it has such immense strength that the stones around him begin saying labbaik, Allahumma labbaik. The trees around him begin doing talbiyah. The mud, the sand, the rocks, everything around begin doing talbiyah. Min hahuna wa hahuna. The whole earth begins to resonate. So when all the Hujjaj begin saying labbaik, Allahumma labbaik, labbaik, Allahumma labbaik, the whole earth is now singing labbaik, Allahumma labbaik. The whole universe is now resonating and dancing with that rhythm. Labbaik, Allahumma labbaik. It is beautiful if you can fathom that. Try and grab some of that and become part of that swim and that stream and that beauty of what labbaik represents. Another point I want to mention here very quickly is that notice as well that Arafat is the furthest point from Mecca. So when you start your Hajj, this is Mecca, this is Mina, this is Muzdalifah, this is Arafah. So you actually go out to the furthest point possible. You spend a whole day purifying yourself, and then you journey back to Mecca. Do you see what is happening here? It is in a sense saying to Allah, I have polluted myself in all this time. I am going to go out as far as possible and purify myself and then come back to you clean. Arafat shares the same root as Ma'rifah, which is realization. So at Arafat, your key task there is to spend the day wailing, crying, asking for forgiveness, and come to realization of who Allah is to you in your life and who you want Him to be in your life. And all the hadith that you have heard, Man arafa nafsa faqad arafa rabba, one who comes to ma'rifah of his Lord will come to ma'rifah of himself. And you will hear in the dua of Arafah as well, even though some say it's not part of the original dua or words of Imam al-Hussein, ماذا وجد من فقدك وماذا فقد من وجدك. What did he find, O Lord, he who lost you? And what did he lose, O Lord, he who found you? Okay, this is what you take in Arafah. Then you go to Mash'arul Haram, where you pick the pebbles. Then you come to Mina. Mina is also called Muna, and it shares the same root as Tamanna, which is to long and to yearn. So when Ibrahim a.s. had completed his Hajj and he came to Mina, then Jibreel said to him, "Oh Ibrahim, now you can have your tamanna. Now you can ask your Lord for what you yearn for. When you have stoned the devils, when you have purified yourselves, when you have sacrificed your animal, when you have shaved your head off, you have completely submitted to your Lord. Now at Mina, this is the place where you yearn." Now, as you yearn there, I urge you not to just yearn for worldly things. We will all have a list of things we want to ask for, right? We want to get married, or we want our children to get married, or we want a job, or we want a child, or we want this, we want that. Certainly ask for all that, but also have some tamanna to come closer to our Lord. Have tamanna to increase in our ma'rifah of the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt and the Quran, and to yearn for the benefactor himself. Two last points very quickly. The fourth here is that in life we generally strive to be more. We strive in life to stand out. In Hajj we strive to become less. We strive to vanish. In this world we generally try to gain the highest education so we can get ahead of others. We try to make ourselves beautiful so we can attract the best spouses. We try and earn more, eat more, drive a better car, own a bigger home, have more Facebook friends, live in a better place, move where there is more comfort, better food, better healthcare, better this, more that, more that. With Hajj, it's less. Don't even look at the mirror. Forget about worrying about how beautiful you are. We shave that beautiful hair off. We can't even swat a mosquito. In Tawaf, we go round and round in a circle that represents infinity until we vanish. In Safa and Marwa, we run back and forth seeking this rida and pleasure of our Lord. In Mina, we stone the devils within to expel them. We sacrifice the animals and thereby slaughter the animal within ourselves. We shave off the world as we shave off our heads. We run far away to Arafat and stand under the heat like the day of judgment, and we cry out to our Lord until we finally return to Makkah. When we return to Makkah, what should be left of you? Nothing. Nothing but a complete surrender to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah should now be able to look at you and say, I now have an ambassador, a vicegerent, a vehicle that is completely at my disposal, who truly I can say, وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ Allah. You now have no wish or desire except what I wish and desire. And you will act on what I want you to act. It is only when you attain these levels, my dear brothers and sisters, that you find your purpose in life, isn't it? We all wonder what is our purpose in life, and we try and guess ourselves that maybe I'm meant to do this, maybe I'm meant to do that. If you surrender completely and Allah takes over, He will use you for His purpose, and that will be your purpose in life. I want to mention here, there was a scholar in Qom who was once asked by someone for advice. Someone came to him and said, I'm going for Hajj, give me some advice. He's a mystic, the scholar. And he said to him in Farsi something that sounded very rude. He said to him, go get lost and never come back. And the man was very offended. I came for advice and you're saying to me, go get lost and never come back? But what he was actually telling him from a mystical perspective is, go for Hajj, lose yourself there, the egoic self, and never come back the same person you are who went for Hajj. My final point here is that Hajj allows you to experience and attain in a few days what you would normally attain in a lifetime. Just like Laylatul Qadr is khayrum min alfi shahr, which is more than 70 years, meaning in the one night of Qadr you can attain what would take a lifetime to attain. The same is for Hajj. It will bring out the worst and the best in you. It will test your anger, your patience, your jealousy, your ability to control your lust, your passion. And the more you fight these and turn away from them, the more spiritual pleasure you will experience. And inshallah, you will find some parts of it that will give you that waqar and sakina. Because we are still, in a sense, at an infancy of our spiritual growth as creatures of God, you might not find that you are constantly sensing this spirituality through every aspect of Hajj. But if you can find some aspects of it, whether it's during Talbiyah or at Arafat or at Mina or during Tawaf, inshallah you will come back with some memories that you will treasure and that you will hold dear and that you will pass on to others, inshallah, and encourage others as well to undertake this journey of a lifetime, inshallah. And I had said I'll leave a few minutes for question, but I am over time. So inshallah we can do that some other time, or we have scholars here, inshallah, who can help you. Thank you very much. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali baytihi tayyibin at-tahirin.